All is One Reflections. My name is Priestess Ifa Pomile Omowari Ogunyomi, and I am a goddaughter of Priestess Oshun Funke Iyanifa. I am a staff member at the Orisha Hoodoo Institute, the Black Spectrum Network, Voodoo Institute. I am the owner of Enchanted Vibes, the co-owner of Vibe and High. I am an overall bad mama jamma, and then some. Today's class is called What About the Children? Everybody's heard that saying, right? Every time there's some crazy stuff going on in the world, or when people uses that as excuse to be discriminatory, they say, what about the children? But this is actually about the children and their protection and not in weird ways. So we are going to be focusing primarily on small children, the fresh ones, the ones who haven't developed audacity yet, the loose necks, the diaper booties, the ones that still love us and show us affection unrelated to buying them something or letting them have candy. If you've had children, you know why I said all those things, because that's how children are. We're going to go over a myriad of ways to protect them physically and spiritually, with some practical applications of our magical knowledge. And this first part is going to feel like I'm yelling, and I am. Y'all know how I am about kids. I wrote out exactly what I wanted to say so that I wouldn't like go off on a tangent. And y'all know I write whole scripts for my classes because my throat chakra and my heart chakra like to cut up when they get together in these here classes. So I will pause for comments and questions, and then we will move on to the magical stuff. And I have, make sure you have something to write with before we get to the second part of the class. So let's just get that hard stuff out the way. Y'all ready? Okay, so stop leaving your kids with everybody. That's the first one. We're going to talk about their physical well-being first and the practical parts of this. Stop leaving your kids with everybody. Don't let everybody hold them, especially if they are like small, like babies. Not everybody needs to hold your baby. Can I hold her? No, actually, you can't. No, you can't. Please don't. Especially kiss them. Yes, thank you, Priestess Oya Petu. Kiss them. No. With all the diseases, no, thank you. When they get a little bit older, do not force your children to hug and kiss people, including you. Do not guilt them into affection. These last two are far more dangerous than people think. Forcing physical affection from your kids, especially when they're small, teaches them that their comfort doesn't matter, that their no doesn't matter. It teaches them that other people are entitled to their bodies. And this is where we first learn to blame victims of sexual assault and things like that. It's really a pet peeve of mine. I don't force my kids to hug anyone, including me. I say, I love you, good night. I go like this. If they hug me, they do. If they don't, I'm like, all right, peace. And I go about my business. Especially when I'm dropping them off at their dad's, or I'm at their dad's and I'm dropping something off, not necessarily them. My son willingly hugs me. This boy gets all in my face. Some of you have seen him in classes for the coven where he's literally this close to me. The small person will get all up in the camera sometimes. And the small person does show affection when they want to, but we're not forcing anybody for hugs and love and attention around here. It makes the child very uncomfortable. If you've ever been that kid who didn't like to be touched by everybody and you had to hug your grandma because that was a way of showing respect by hugging someone or letting them be all up on you, even though it made you physically uncomfortable, that is a lot of times becomes a pathology. And so then you grow up, and even though you're in a relationship with somebody, you may not feel like being touched right now, but because you are used to the only way that you can reaffirm your love for someone is by physical touch, then that, y'all see where I'm going with this? It's just not, it's not a good idea to do that to your kids, because it does become a problem. It can become a problem later in life in some form or fashion. Doesn't mean that they'll be assaulted, but it will become a problem in some way later on in life. So please, 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 stop that one. Especially when it starts to get disrespectful. Like, some adults are real disrespectful about kids. Like, why don't she want to hug me? You should hug me because I'm your elder. It's rude not to hug your uncle when he asks nicely for a hug. Damn, I can't get a hug. No, you don't love me because you won't hug me. You see how that goes? Like, those are literally things that we have told children. I have heard, either they've been said to me, I've heard them, or I've been told about, you know, that happening. Like, that's so crazy to me. Any of these things said to an adult would get some crazy looks. But let's be honest, our society and our culture specifically bullies children. So we teach them that they must show physical affection to others, even when it makes them uncomfortable. And then when we find out they're handled inappropriately, we get mad that they didn't say anything, or we don't believe them when they do. And then we put them in adult situations and then tell them to stay in a child's place, which is absolutely crazy. We physically harm them because they make mistakes or don't understand, and then judge adults for fighting adults and saying that they should keep their hands to themselves. Do you see the like insane logic that we use with children? It's absolutely, it's creepy in many cases. It's dehumanizing, all types of things. Humans tend to trend towards violence, and simple things that could be settled by a conversation with assistance from a neutral party have ended in bloodshed, war, and destruction. We have to start changing this, and we must raise better humans, not pushovers, not softies, but children who don't depend on others to define themselves, children who can accept rejection and move on, children who can see people in situations for what they are, not for what they wish them to be, and move accordingly. Children who understand how to protect themselves from the weird shit and can stand confidently in their own body and know what they do and do not want to do, and who they do and do not want to do it with. In order for this to happen, we must become better parents. To do that, we must first become better people. In 2023, there is no excuse for ignorance. Al Gore did not invent the internet for you goofy baby witches to think you can learn to hex the mood. We have so much information available to us, yet we choose to keep up with the Kardashians, judge Lizzo for her outfits, and idolize and then judge celebrities for their choices, and binge watch low vibrational reality TV. Read some books. I'm going to start with that. Hell, read some PDFs of some books. Listen to some audiobooks. Get some culture. Go to a museum, an art museum. Go to an exhibit. Expand your horizons. Stop being narrow-minded. And for the love of all things sacred, stop acting like you can't learn anything from white people. This is also a pet peeve of mine. White people love to share the shit that their ancestors stole, right? So go soak it up and grow the fuck up. Learn something. Go learn something. Yes, they stole it, but now you have the opportunity to learn and appreciate another culture. So instead of focusing on all the harm that white people have done with their colonization, because they have done quite a bit of harm, but take that and turn it into something positive and learn from it. Don't be a culture vulture. That's the first thing, right? But then take that opportunity to learn about other things and show your children other things. Sometimes kids will never leave the neighborhood that they grew up in. They may never leave the state until they are much older. And the only way that they're going to see certain things is if you show them. We already know that the school system sucks, right? So we can't always rely on teachers to give them culture. You are the parent. You have to take part of this as your responsibility as a parent to educate your children about other cultures, so that when they see a little Arab boy, they don't call him a terrorist or assume he's a terrorist, because he knows better. When they see a little Asian boy, they don't go, because they know better. Because when I was growing up, that was a very common thing. And when you think about it, it was hugely disrespectful. I wouldn't say racist, but it was definitely disrespectful. Some of the things that kids do to each other because they hear it from adults. So we have to do much, much better when it comes to that.
Yeah. My cousin said.
As I was saying, I got off on a tangent. See, this is why I write everything. Like I said, white people love to share the stuff that they stole. So go soak it up, grow up, use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. They have amazing books to help you learn about things, finances, mental health, herbalism, literally everything. Yes, you want to support Black authors. Yes, you want to support Black artists, Black businesses. Yes, I root for everybody Black, okay? However, let's be for real. Not one race, culture, or belief has all of the answers. Stop teaching your children this. Instead, teach them discernment. Teach them how to gather information from multiple sources and then trim the fat to take what they actually need that will help them. Stop trying to mold them into what you want. Stop projecting onto them. Stop living vicariously through them. Stop forcing them into things that you failed to achieve. Stop dehumanizing them and then wondering why randoms on the street don't value them. And now I'm stepping off my soapbox. I could say so much more, but I'm not going to. Ibashe Yemeya, Ibashe Ogun, Ibashe Obata. And I say it Ogun because I will literally go to war about kids. Some of you adults really piss me off. I did like 3 lives on enchanting your children. They're on my YouTube if you haven't seen them. I only got big mad on like one of them. The other ones were very like happy and peppy, but one of them I got a little bit mad. But if you missed them or you want a refresher, you can just go to YouTube and type in Enchanted Vibes. My channel should come up if you're not already subscribed, which you should be. But you can watch those there. One of those is how to enchant your children using your cycle as well. So that's a good one, since everybody wants to use blood magic all the time. Use it for something great, like making your children's lives better. Does anyone have a question, comment, or concern before we move on? I'm gonna sip some water. Anybody got anything to add? All right, nobody raised their hand. Wonderful. So let's talk about the magical portion of this now. So as always, make sure you do a divination. First, sit with your spirits and meditate. They will show you exactly what they would like you to do in order to help protect the bloodline. Funny story is, while I was writing this, I was listening to an orchestra play songs from James Brown. I posted the Outcast one earlier today in all the groups, but I was listening to another one they did about James Brown. And if you know the song, Baby, 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 that was on while I was typing. And so I just thought that was ironic that that song happened to come on, because he says a baby a million times in that song. There are two books that I absolutely think that everyone should have. And one of them I have the PDF for. It is in the Facebook groups, and that is Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Like I said, I have a PDF that I printed off at work. I used I used Works resources in order to have a physical copy. Let's be resourceful. This book has a lot of herbs, and it has their intentions, and it also has some magical uses. It also has like some of the correspondences in there, but it also has some of the chemical stuff, like if it's poisonous, you know, some of the chemical compounds that's actually in that book, which is helpful if you are like mixing herbs and for allergies and stuff like that. If you actually look at that book and you look at each herb that's in there, it'll actually tell you that. Second book is the Complete Correspondences, Complete Book of Correspondences by Llewellyn's. All the Llewellyn books are great, but this one is probably one of the best and one of the most useful in our field. It will tell you correspondences between herbs and tarot and crystals and the solar system and zodiac signs. It will give you intentions. It'll tell you goddesses, which we don't really use because they don't have the African ones in here. It tells you chakra correspondences, all that. So Llewellyn's Complete Book of Correspondences and Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. Two books that are super, super important. You will need these regardless of what kind of work you do. They're excellent resources. There are a lot of books on medicinal properties of things as well. And I'm gonna be referencing those in the next class, Made with Love, in a couple of weeks, because it's more about medicinal properties of food and what they help you with when you're cooking with them or eating them. So there is that. So let's start at the beginning. The conception part and the in utero part, the actual pregnancy part. So there are a few ways to use magic to conceive and to protect a pregnancy. I recommend that you do a lot of research if that is the particular path you are going to take. I have this book right here. Sorry, it's not closer to me. I got it close up, but it's called 1001 Spells. And there are literally, there's a whole chapter on fertility magic. And it's quite a few pages, but there are 50 spells in this book. Everything from getting pregnant to after the baby is born to even like adoption. If you have, like this one, it says for adopting an infant or young child from another culture. There's literally a spell that will help you with the changes that can come with that. So again, be resourceful. This is actually a great book. It doesn't have, it has intentions. It kind of tells you why, but every spell, it's very short. It's not very long. So you have to really understand how to do spell work in order to use this book. It is by Cassandra Easton. I'm sorry, Eason, Cassandra Eason, E-A-S-O-N, 1001 Spells. I got it. I ordered a bunch of herbs, and like this was like a freebie that came with it. They have chapters on everything. There's prosperity spells, all types of things in here, but there's literally an entire chapter devoted to conception, a stable pregnancy. There's one for a christening ceremony or a naming ceremony. First-time mothers and fathers trust their ability to do the best for their child, like all types of things in here. Tree planting for a new baby, a new grandchild, all types of things are in this book. And like I said, this stuff is easy. This is small potatoes stuff. And so if you are, definitely if you're in the coven, this will be easy stuff for you. You can divine and see how you can add some razzle dazzle if you need to. And this does actually tell you if you need to use a particular day of the week. Like, yeah, if you need to do it on a Friday, if you need to do it during a full moon, whatever. This tells you exactly when to do the spell to use all the energy around you. So this is actually a pretty decent book for what it's worth. Again, I got it for free, but it's a pretty decent book. There are a lot of teas that are on the market. Again, do hella research, read the reviews that aren't on their website, because I don't know if you've ever seen some of these websites, how the reviews come up and you can't tell if it's a bot or if it's actual a person. So you can go to like Amazon or Google, sometimes Yelp, and look at those reviews to kind of get a better idea. A lot of the bigger companies are on Amazon, so you will be able to find solid reviews on there, especially the ones by Caucasians. They're definitely on Amazon. They'll have whole stores on Amazon. So I don't know if Alkaline Goddess has hers on Amazon, because I bought it right from her website, but people say great things about her stuff as well. You can also go into certain social media groups, just depending upon the group, because everybody has their own set of rules, but you can go in and ask about products that help with certain things. And you will get a lot of advice. Take it all with a grain of salt, especially if they're not directing you to someone specific. Take it all with a grain of salt. Use discernment. Again, do hella research to make sure that you're not doing some weird stuff somebody just made up, or that it's actually counterproductive. And then also do a divination. But the people in Facebook groups and stuff, they're less likely to be bots or paid sponsors of the product. So they can actually be a pretty good resource if you can get a good recommendation or a good reference for specific people. So once the baby is born, hella things you could do. One of the first things you can do, one of the easiest things that you can do, is spiritual baths. Yes, you can give babies spiritual baths. I know that some of us never even considered this, right? But it is completely possible. You can do them when you do yours. If you create, a special blend that's not going to react a certain way. And I wouldn't put all the salt as much in it. If you're going to do it separate, because for those first, couple weeks, you're not putting them in the big bathtub, right? You're using the little infant tub. So you can make the water, boil it, let the herbs steep, and then pour that into their bath first, and then pour the regular bath water so it cools it off, because you don't want to use super, super hot water on a baby, obviously. But you still want it to, be a little warm. Like I said, you can let it cool down a little bit. If you don't want to use herbs, because some babies are like super sensitive, or if they have a rash or something like that, you can diffuse like some lavender, so that kind of keeps them relaxed. You can add chamomile if you need to, so that it's not really touching their skin. It's just like in the air. And if you have a place for them to sleep in your room, but that's not in your bed, you can do that. That's really what's best, because you're going to have to get up and feed them throughout the night, right? Especially if you're doing this together. It's best that you do it together. That way you don't even have to worry about it. Do theirs, get them to lay down, do yours once they're kind of asleep, because you'll have at least about 45 minutes once they're asleep. You can run your bath while you're washing them up, if you know that they'll go to sleep quickly. But otherwise, you can diffuse things in their room to help them sleep a little bit longer than normal, hopefully. Do their bath, again, like I said, just a little bit differently. Use probably only like 1 tablespoon of whatever mixture you use for yourself. And I would say probably at least 8 ounces of hot water. Let that sit about 20 minutes. While it's sitting, you can wipe them down, because again, you want them to be clean. You don't want the whole like explosion of poop on them when you do their little spiritual bath. So make sure they're a little bit clean. You can wipe them down with a washcloth. If you have a soap that you made, you can make a special soap for them. If you're in the coven, we had our little soap workshop. So you can definitely use that as an example. And then kind of, tailor it towards your child. Again, make sure that you're not using things that will irritate. So with this book, again, this book is going to be very helpful with the composition of herbs so that you don't, and I wouldn't use powders either. I would use the whole herb. That way, when you strain the water, it's not going to leave any residue or anything like that. So like, even if you're using cinnamon, make sure that it's the whole cinnamon sticks, not the powdered version. And then make sure you wipe them down with like a white rag. When you're done, make sure you still use the whole white thing. So put them in like a white onesie, or if you have white pajamas, like the footy kind. If they're super young, you don't want to use blankets. So make sure that they have, all white pajamas, and those cute little hats, those little beanie hats that they have for babies, to cover their head. Because also you could do an Ori feeding as well. Yes, you should feed the Ori of your child until they are old enough to feed their own Ori. And when you think about it, this will actually help them so much more, because remember, they can see things and feel things that we can't, because they're still so sensitive and still so attached to the other parts of the universe, because they literally just came through a universe, through a portal, which is you. Whether it was a cesarean or vaginal, you're still the portal. They still came through a portal. So by protecting their Ori and feeding their Ori, you will help them probably cut out a lot of bullshit later on in life, because they will be able to discern better. They will be able to hear their Ori better. And when they are seeing and hearing things that they can't even vocalize yet, they will have a better understanding of those things, so that hopefully they're not so terrified. Because that's a big problem with smaller kids. They don't know how to voice what it is that they see. They see spirits, they can hear spirits, but they don't know how to say what it is they're experiencing. And so feeding their Ori can help protect them from the other spirits and things. And spiritual baths will help protect them if something is trying to latch onto them, because again, they're a baby. They're super vulnerable to spirits and other things. So by doing that, you're kind of like cutting out some of the nonsense of what's going on around them, even if you can't see it. If you are pregnant, you can also make a specific bath or soap to protect your pregnancy. Just don't use super hot water, obviously, if you're going to sit in the tub. You can also use it as like a foot soap, which could be very clutch during pregnancy, because anybody who's ever been pregnant knows that the feet and the swelling and the pain that comes through all the things of pregnancy, but particularly on your feet, it's like a big deal. So take care of your feet when you are pregnant, and you can use a spiritual bath basically for your feet to help keep things together. And plus, we get rid of a lot of toxins through our feet, and so you want to make sure that you're taking care of them, particularly when you are pregnant. Does anybody have any questions about spiritual baths and Ori feedings for the babies and the pregnants? Okay, wonderful. Priestess Aoife Kimmy, I saw you throw that, whatever that was. So the next thing is protection sigils and symbols. So there are a few different ways to do this. Creating your own sigil is always going to be the best idea, particularly if it was from like a divination or through meditating with your spirits. Those are always going to be amazing. You can also look them up. My amazing egg bae, Priestess Oya Petu, she got me this great book as a love offering long time ago. It is called Signs and Symbols, an illustrated guide to their origins and meanings. I don't know who the author is, because it doesn't just say it, but this is what the book looks like. It's a beautiful book. It has literally all types of things in it, from protection to the different body parts, like what heads mean and the symbology of heads and symbols and things like that. It also has sigils, the eyes. We all know the right eye of Horus, which is right here. It's upside down, so you can't see. But if I were to go like this, it's the right eye of Horus. I will get the left eye of Horus another time. But all types of things are in here. So you can, by the way, I love you, Priestess Oyefetu. I love this book and I love you. Parts. Symbols and sigils can be drawn with a Sharpie on the inside of book bags, coats, and certain other kinds of clothing without damaging them. You can also, they can also be sewn into these items for a more permanent status. And this is also nice if you are into donating clothing, because you can enchant it to continue to protect all children who wear that particular thing, which is a good way to kind of pay it forward a little bit. You can also put these in hidden places in their bedroom, like under carpets, under the rug, under paint, and under wallpaper. Especially like when you're redecorating a baby room, you can paint a sigil underneath something and then cover it up with another color, but it'll still always be there. White is probably the easiest, because you can do it kind of like with the primer. You can literally use the primer to make a certain sigil and put it in their room, and that will protect their entire room. So that's an idea if you never thought of that. You can etch it in wooden surfaces, sorry, like nightstands, dressers. If you give them a wooden toy box, you can have things etched in there. You can do it yourself. You can have it done professionally. There's a lot of like woodworkers and carpenters that can do easy little projects like that and have it look professional if you wish, or you can do it yourself. You just need one of those like wood carving knives and some patience and some skill. You can have a friend do it. You have a friend that's really artsy, you can do it. It doesn't take very much. Like this is one of the things I use for my pendulum when I'm doing stuff for other people. Like it doesn't take very much. You can literally get something like this and have somebody put something on it and then use some form of adhesive and attach it to the back, so where nobody would even know it was there unless they pulled it away from the wall. You don't always want protection things to be visible, because if somebody knows where it is and knows what it is and what it's for, if they wanted to do something, they could undo it if they had the ability to, or they could pay someone to undo it. So you do want them to be hidden, and don't go bragging to your friends about all the protection that you put over your child, because people are haters, friends are haters, family members are haters. If you ain't learned nothing else, protect your children from everyone. Sometimes even the other parent is necessary. So you ain't got to tell everybody everything. You can also draw things and put them inside stuffed animals. So you can just literally draw it on a piece of paper, make a little hole in the stuffed animal, put it in, and then sew the hole back up. It's really, really simple. And if you're pregnant, you could draw them on your stomach. Like after your spiritual bath, you can draw little symbols on your stomach. You can use body paint, something that won't be too harsh, lipstick, makeup, something that is meant for the body and that can wipe off and won't like hurt your skin or absorb weird and hurt the baby. So just little tidbits there. Anybody have any questions about protection sigils and symbols? Yes, henna tattoos on pregnant bellies is definitely a thing. Henna tattoos are a form of protection. In most cases, it's a form of protection or a prosperity spell or love spell. Henna is really actually quite amazing. So small section, crystals and talismans. So smaller kids really can't wear these, right? You wouldn't want to give them a necklace. if you get their ears pierced, you could get some, you just have to make sure you're careful that it's real and that it's put on nickel free type things, or it's on sterling silver or actual gold. You don't want to put the cheap stuff in your kids' ears. So that is something you can do with crystals. But just as you did with the symbols and the sigils, you can actually put these things in your children's clothing and toys. So winter coats and snowsuits are probably the easiest to kind of like hide a crystal or a talisman in, because you can either just make a small hole, put it in, and sew that hole back up, or you can make a little fake pocket on the inside with just another piece of fabric. You can literally just sew that piece of fabric on with the crystal inside and then sew it closed. And that way they don't lose it. It wouldn't, unless you did a terrible job at sewing, they're not going to lose it. And that's something you can easily touch up. And if you do it right, you could probably replace what goes in there fairly easily, depending upon how you do it and how you take care of it, especially small kids, because they're not really throwing their clothes around. Typically you're dressing them and undressing them. So that's not really a big deal. When they get to like, when they start going to daycare and they're like able to run around, when they start losing their clothing at school, you want to make sure it's a little bit more secure so it doesn't fall out. But when they're babies, you don't actually have to close up the hole. You can leave it a little bit open so you can take it out and replace whatever it is, because you want to be able to charge the crystal too, or replace it if something else is going on. So that's an idea for that. Did anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Hairstyles. So if you have a child with long hair that gets braided, you can actually enchant the items that you put in it. Cowrie shells are like super common, right? And you can enchant the cowrie shells for a myriad of things before you put them in their hair. You know, purify them with Florida water, all types of stuff. Abundance, yes, thank you, Priestess Omisika. Prosperity, wealth, communication with spirit, protection. They can be a form of protection. And you can also use like the little charms. So you can pick charms that have like a meaning and enchant them based on their meaning and put them in. Those are super cheap and they're freaking everywhere. But if you didn't know, if you weren't aware, many of our ancestors used to hide items in braids. It was usually like seeds and things like that, but they did this in case they were unexpectedly separated, or if they planned an escape, they would hide stuff in the hair so that when they got to whatever their destination was, they would have food, or depending upon how the length of the hair, you know, some type of tool that would help them. And this is a beautiful way to pay homage to them by enchanting your kids' hair. This is more for girls than boys, but even beads, you can enchant beads. You can use certain colors and use the intentions of the colors to enchant and protect them. So it doesn't have to be anything simple. Every now and then, I know when I was younger, boys used to have a tail. I actually have a tail right now. Boys would have little tail, and almost everybody had beads at the end. So that is a thing that you can do. Spirit dolls. This is kind of like a given, right? You can easily make a spirit doll for your child anytime, even during pregnancy. Priestess Omo Shule has a class on them. If you don't know how to make one, it is on learnorishahoodoo.com. It's under Priestess Omo Shule's classes. You can use paper, you can use fabric, you can use corn husks. The medium is between you and your spirits, as is the herbs and any other items that you use, whether it be crystals or whatever. It's clothing, whatever. That's completely between you and the spirits. But that is like one of the easiest ways. One of the easiest things you can do is make a spirit doll, because then you can work the doll to help them even if they're not physically present. Food. So we're going to talk more about this, like I said, in depth in the Made with Love class. But as it relates to small children, there is a really easy way that you can enchant their food. When my kids were infants, I actually made all their food. I had one of those little baby food makers. And so I would cook the vegetables. And for those that don't know, that don't have small children, when they're first born, obviously all they can have is milk, right? So, and before we even go past that, breastfeeding your child, if you can, not everybody can, and there's several reasons why you can't, and that's fine. But breastfeeding your child is a form of protection. The nurturing, first of all, it's full of all the great things. Breast milk is best, right? We all know that. But the actual bond building that happens and the protection and the nurturing that happens while breastfeeding your child and praying over your child. Hopefully you're not just sitting there and not paying attention to your child. I know sometimes we're multitasking, but you really want to take the time when breastfeeding your child to pray over them. Not every time, but pretty regularly. You want to make sure you're taking that time to really bond with your child, not just looking on Facebook, things like that. That is unmatched if you can do it. If you can't, still want to make sure that you're bonding while you're feeding the child. You don't want to be doing a whole bunch of stuff while you're feeding them. You kind of want to give them a little bit of attention. But back to, so once they get about, I think it's 6 months now where they're allowed to start eating solid food, somewhere between 4 and 6 months where they start getting into, solid food. And you have to do like a test, right? So you have to only give them one ingredient for about 3 to 5 days, depending upon what they say at the time, just to make sure that they don't have an allergic reaction. So I would cook green beans, for example, right? We start with simple things, no seasonings at first, just green beans. Make green beans, make sure they're cooked, get a little warm, put them in the baby, will get hot actually. Put it in the baby food maker and, have it do its thing. It comes out into this great puree. And then I'll season the rest that's in the pot after I've, taken a good amount for them. I did this with both of my kids. They're about 5 years apart. And A, it saves a lot of money. And B, it prevents, because if y'all didn't know, the baby food is incredibly processed if you buy it from a shelf. And so I highly recommend finding a way to do it on your own. And the baby food makers are not expensive. I think when I got mine, it was like $15, and my son is 15. So a little over 15 years ago, it was like $15. So they probably aren't too expensive now. If you have a food processor, it'll probably work just fine. But they actually have a baby food maker that you can use. And they are quite fantastic. So you do your one ingredient at a time, you put it in there, and you feed them that for a few days. You can enchant whatever it is. Again, I'll kind of share some of the books that I use in the next class, but you can get books that tell you about the medicinal properties of food. So you can then enchant those things to do what you need them to do in order to protect and nurture your small little baby. Anything else I wanted to say about that? I did not read my notes on that entire section, so let me make sure I didn't feel anything. Also, by using the food that you're already eating, because once you get past the first couple weeks where you've kind of tried almost everything, at least all the like important staple type stuff, and then you can start to do it with the food that you're cooking. So like spaghetti, you can literally take a handful of spaghetti, put it in the baby food maker, and your kid's still eating spaghetti, right? So this kind of helps later in life with them not wanting a separate meal. It's not going to completely alleviate it. All kids are assholes, okay? All kids go through a hot dog phase, they go through a chicken nugget phase, and depending, they may or may not go through a ramen noodle phase, okay? It happens. It happens. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Don't think that you failed because your kid only wants hot dogs or chicken nuggies or whatever little random thing that they get obsessed with. It's just a fact of childhood. Every kid did it. We did it. Even, good, sweet vegan children get obsessed with a good vegan hot dog, and that's all they want. So don't feel bad. It's going to happen. Hopefully it doesn't last too long. Again, this kind of helps curb that a little bit, but nothing is going to stop your child from being obsessed with bullshit. It just happens. Accept it and move on. Just remember that. The last thing that I have to talk about is teaching them without limitations. So children are like sponges, and so they soak up everything that they see. And so you should let them see you doing things. Even as babies, they don't need to leave the room because you are doing work. You want them to see that. You want them to absorb that. Now, certain types of work, yes, they probably shouldn't be present for that. I'm not going to get into that. Y'all know what it is. I'm gonna mind my business. Anyway, but they are never too young to be taught to appreciate the spirits of herbs and, put them in a pot when you're making a potpourri. Like, if they can hold it without, even if they gum it a little bit, but if they can talk and if they can say thank you, you can have them say thank you, cinnamon. And that's pretty much it. It helps teach them to appreciate the food that they're eating, appreciate what you're doing, and it lets them put their ashe into it as well, which will ultimately help with the protection of your home, which we will go further into in the A Bridge, a Moat, and a Dragon class about protection of the home. But if they can see you doing it, they will learn how to do it themselves. They won't be scared of it. And that goes to their gifts as well. If you encourage their gifts and help them understand their gifts, that is definitely a form of protection. A lot of us got complexes when we were younger because we were told our gift was demonic or something like that. And so that greatly affected the way that we saw our gift and the way we used it or didn't use it. Some of us completely cut the gift off because we were scared of it. And now here we are in our, most of us, 30s and 40s, trying to figure out how to use these gifts in a positive way and get them back. So encourage your children when their gift shows up. Don't make them feel weird about it. Teach them as much as you can how to use it, or get a resource outside of you. You have, our whole community, right? The Orisha Hoodoo Institute. We have VSN. We have YouTube now. Like, there's really no excuse for anybody to be teaching their children, at least not in the spiritual community, be teaching their children how to mask their gift, or that their gift isn't important. We need to make sure that we are doing that, and then teaching them how to use the things around them so they can gain discernment, especially from these weird ass kids that they're going to be in school with. I don't know if y'all have ever seen little kids before, but if you ever see a group of children, a gaggle of children, they are crazy. Okay. And you don't know what other parents are teaching their kids, and you can't even really control it. And so you really have to, as soon as you can, teach your kids boundaries and discernment. And that goes back to what I said earlier. If you're always making them hug and touch people, they're going to think that the little kids, the little hoodlums, can hug and touch on them too. And hell to the no. Okay. We're not even talking about diseases like, lice and stuff like that. That yes, Black people can get lice, by the way. We're not even talking about stuff like that. Just the weirdo energy and the weirdo vibes. We don't even think about that with our kids because we were like, oh, they're small, they're innocent, they're not going to be harmed by spirits. Yeah, the fuck right. That's the first place spirits go, because the kids can see them. And once they know a kid can see them, or hear them, they're going to have that kid doing all types of stuff. So if you're teaching your children discernment and you are using protection work on them and teaching them how to protect themselves spiritually from a very young age, you can save them from who knows what kind of havoc and things like hand, foot, mouth disease and other such shenanigans. Does anybody have anything else? Any questions, comments, concerns, additions that they would like to share? Is there a way that you do protection work on your children that I didn't mention? Anything before I end the class? Anything to contribute? Priestess Oya Petu.
Yes, I have a question. What do you do as a parent who obviously is spiritual and you feel like you're feeling the energy off a particular child that just does not sit right with your spirit? Like I feel like there is a child that I have encountered or encounter in Red Sonic school where I'm just like, something ain't right with you. And I need to I'm trying to figure out what, because she already has protection stuff, on her person and that work that I do over Red Sonic. But what do you do when it's not your child, but you're picking up on that energy and you're the parent. It's not like you can, confront a child and be like, I don't like your energy. So what do you recommend for something like that?
So this is something that you could do regardless of the age of your child, is get to the bottom of it. If it's something that's unavoidable, because especially if your child likes this kid, right? You can't just say, I don't like this kid, you can't hang around him. That's never, ever, ever, ever a good plan. And so I would say, figure it out. Talk to the kid's parents, maybe even a play date so that you can see how this kid really acts. If you have protection over your kids in your home, it's not going to be a big deal. Because sometimes it's just us. Sometimes it's us, we get a weird feeling, we're like, I don't like that. But it's really not a justifiable offense, right? Not something that would cause alarm, right? Some little kids is just weird. And they just give off weird vibes, right? And we don't really know why. But it may not be something that they're inherently bad, right? They may have a weirdo ass parent. And so I would say get to the bottom of it. If your child already likes this child, definitely befriend the child. Invite them over, talk to their parents. And then I wouldn't say do work on the child, but if you notice there's something that is actually a concern, do what you need to do to be a protector of that child as well. Because sometimes we get so caught up on protecting our children that we forget that our children are going to be around other children. And it's really about protecting them all. Because if I can't stop my kid from talking to a kid, and so I want the best for that kid too. And so if that means, inviting them over and pulling them out of a weird situation as much as I can without, going too far, then that's just what that means. We really have to get back to protecting all children, not just the ones that came from our coochies. Because that's part of why the world is where it is right now. If you've been paying any attention to the stuff over yonder, people are not really realizing that when you bomb 2.2 million people, where over half of the population is kids, that you really just bombed 1 million kids. 1 million kids got displaced. Thousands of children died. It doesn't matter what their parents were doing. These are children. And they should not have to pay for the mistakes of dumbass adults who don't know how to use their fucking words. So, all of the children. yes, it's not fully your responsibility, but as a community and as a village, we have to get back to looking out for children, even if they aren't ours, so that maybe we can have a positive influence and keep them away from harm, or bare minimum, keep the harm away from our kids due to their fuck shit. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, additions that they do? I love that you do things for her and have little things for my little red Sonic and my little niece. I love that. All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed this class. The next class in this series is Made with Love, where I will be going over ways to cook with intention and magic. There will be a total of 7 classes in this series, so make sure you watch them all. We have a lot of events coming up, so make sure you're in our Discord and on our Facebook group. And you can always reach out to me if you need assistance with something. I am a moderator for all of our communities, whether it be on Discord or Facebook. So if I don't know something, I can definitely use one of our cousins at Black Spectrum Network to get you whatever it is you need. If it's not my area, I will definitely find somebody else to do it. Because I don't like to play with people like that. So I will get somebody else to do it if I got to. Okay. Thank you all for joining me. And remember to keep your head so high you don't even see the hairs. Peace.